We extend a warm welcome to Mr. Aravind Melligeri, Chairman and CEO, Aquas, for joining us on the occasion of 75th AGM of IMTMA for the special session. A brief introduction of Mr. Aravind Melligeri. Mr. Aravind Melligeri is the founder, chairman, and CEO of Aquas. Mr. Melligeri holds bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, and a master's degree in mechanical engineering from Pennsylvania State University. Over the last decade, he has built a vertically integrated aerospace ecosystem that drives scale and efficiency through co-located capabilities, delivering end-to-end value streams. This unique ecosystem was awarded the prestigious Global Airbus Innovation Award in 2016 and recognized as the first of its kind in the world. He has been the recipient of the Young Achiever Award by the Indo-American Community and Super Entrepreneur 2019 Award by the Machinist India magazine. Mr. Melligeri's far-sightedness and differentiated approach has led India to increase in-country value add and gain a competitive advantage. Mr. Melligeri is joining from Houston, USA today, and it is around 6 a.m. in the morning now, and we greatly appreciate this gesture. On behalf of IMTMA and my personal behalf, let me extend a warm welcome to Mr. Aravind Melligeri. I now cordially invite Mr. Melligeri to begin the address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Indradev. Thank you for the opportunity to speak up. I know it's early, but my typical day starts at 5 o'clock in the morning here because it just happened to be in Houston. Doesn't mean that business stops around the world. My team is already working from morning. So when they asked me to speak, I said if we can do it like 6 o'clock, it would be easier for me. Otherwise, it will be a bit challenging. So thank you for accommodating that little bit later schedule. And my journey is simple. Look at as an entrepreneur when there is an opportunity globally, wherever we look at globally, what is the opportunity to be delivered and solved from customer problem perspective. Today, as ACUS, we are operating in 3 verticals: aerospace, toys, and consumer durables. I'll take you through a little bit of journey of that, how we went there, how we got there. And but the key is to make sure that we're trying to solve customer problem holistically, not for today, not just for tomorrow, but holistically as a long-term solution. What would customer optimal solution would look like, and work backwards. Some of this may take 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 years, some of these things. So it's important as you all are leaders of the business or owners of the business to understand and solve in a holistic fashion, to be leader in the world, to be a significant market share. That is the type of a solution what we are driven towards. And it's a long-term game, and you all are in this business for a long period of time. A 75-year industry association is a long, it's most probably it's the oldest association in the country, most probably, 75th AGM we are calling about. So I'm just, I fear that I will share a few of my thoughts with you, and I'll leave it most of the time for question and Q&A so that you guys can get answers, hear from whatever you want to hear from me. Next. ACUS today is about 5,000 people operating in 3 verticals, as I said, aerospace, manufacturing. These are all only manufacturing verticals, what I'm talking about. We basically provide a global solution to customers on, in aerospace, toys, and consumer durables. You might say that why in the world such a wide variety of activities? I'll talk to you a little bit about my principles of what we need to deliver to the as a customers. And it basically, we always look at global customer base. We're about 5,000 people, and our base currently is next door. We work with customers globally from Airbus, Boeing, and then we have Mattel, Hasbro, and then in the toys. And locally, domestically, we are working with some Indian customers for the consumer durables. We operate today in Belagavi. It's a tier 3 city in India, as you all know. And we also operate in aerospace in that activity, and also toys we manufacture there as a proof of concept. We just launched a new toy cluster, one of its kind in India, in Koppal, to develop a toy ecosystem in India, which is completely lacking as a country. And then we are just announced a Hubballi consumer durables cluster. Again, it's spread all over India, not really focused on exports currently in the whole market is. And we also have aerospace facilities in France and US to support our customers' requirements. So idea has been, what we built in Belagavi is a vertically integrated, understanding your core, defining your core. We define core as a machining activities, high-end machining, metallic basically, nothing more than that. And then work from there, aluminum, steel, titanium activities, working with the customers. Initially started just with a $200,000 project from a customer, existing customer in our services business. Go to the next slide. And today this is what it was. In 2008, we started with the barren land in Belagavi. Everybody asked me why you don't want to start in Bangalore. Bangalore already has ecosystem for aerospace manufacturing. It's far easier for you to do this here, including my board. I said, impossible. Look at 20, 30 years down the road. There is no manufacturing happens in New York, Paris, London. Okay. If you want to be competitive globally, you got to be in a cost structure and which is sustainable in a very long period of time. The biggest problem most of the manufacturing companies start with the land, building, and then start buying machines. By the time they buy the machines and then get up the working capital, most of the time they're stretched to their limits, because never happens as per the plan. It always more, they need more than what they need, and they start struggling. So if you can reduce the investments in the land and the building and just focus on our revenue generating assets, which are machines in a machining business, that increases our ability to grow and opportunity to meet the customer requirement far better. That is what our thesis was, and it has proven fairly well, what I would say. And focus on investing on only revenue generating asset. You define what your revenue generating assets are, because nobody else values everything, none of the other things. Nobody values your land. You might weigh physically as an entrepreneur or owner, you might value those assets, but no investor values, no stakeholder values apart from you. And it's important to remember that and focus on that activity. That's what we did. We had an infra business, make sure they deliver the infrastructure, what is required when we need what we need in the most cost-effective fashion. And then our manufacturing business focused on only machining, core machining. And then initially when we started, it was only 20% in-country value add. We are buying material, importing the material, importing the machine tools, importing the cutting tools, importing the cutting oil, and only thing we were doing is labor machining. It was about 20% of the total value of the product. So we started there our journey. And today, up to 95% in-country value add, we are going towards 100% in-country value add now, some of the products. It is a journey. So to do that, we had to bring in a surface special processing, surface treatment like anodizing, plating, shot peening, those kind of things into the country. We needed to bring in a very high capacity, the forgings, for example, 10,000 ton forging. And we needed to brought in assembly capabilities, high-end FMS machining kind of capabilities. So by bringing these things in, we're able to compete globally with our competition, not just on the labor arbitrage, but also on the technology and the machining technology side of it. Because we can always say we are going to put labor and reduce the total cost, but the reality is our competition has a lower cost of capital in Western countries. They will put higher end machine with higher automation. They beat, and better quality products will come because no human intervention exists and highly engineered products. So we had to really compete head on, head to head with these people, both on the low end 3-axis machining to all the way to the 5-axis titanium machining. So it's important to make sure that you understand the competition, and the level playing field have to be created by our own way, whichever way it is. So today we have a complete ecosystem in Belgavi, which provides aerospace products. During the COVID, we didn't even shut down a single day because we could do completely internally, vertically integrated, but not necessarily by ourselves. All our other activities, forging, the surface treatment, the assemblies are all joint ventures with the global partners, because we couldn't do it ourselves in a short period of time. This industry evolves for 20, 30 years. So we had to make it happen in a short period of time. That only happens when you bring in partners to bring capability and also for them to benefit from this. So that's important. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of journey. I started Quest Global Engineering. Today it's about 13,000 engineers globally doing design activities back in '97 with my partner Ajit Prabhu. And in 2006, we started thinking, why can't we get into the manufacturing? When we were doing design work, we were doing all the way design, including the tooling, tooling, fixture design, the writing the CNC programs for our customer as services. And we asked our customer, can we do manufacturing in India? India had very little of aerospace manufacturing. They said, look, we are pushing an open door. If we can do it, we're happy to have you do it. And as a proof of concept, I took $500,000 from a board, convinced them, with a lot of pain, to set up a machine shop in Bangalore. And just to see whether we can do it. Coming out of a services industry, we had no idea what manufacturing meant. So then from there, we realized there is an opportunity, and we expanded into setting up a whole ecosystem to increase the in-country value add, and then expand into oil and gas and automotive also at that time. Because actually, in fact, we started with automotive with one of the customer because it's a known beast in India. Automotive machining was a known quantity. Aerospace, nobody knew much of aerospace machining. So, but we expanded, and in 2016, Hasbro saw what we did for aerospace from scratch, building the in-country value add significantly higher. They said, China today, China basically manufactures $20 billion worth of toys and sporting goods, okay? Exports to all over the world to an end market value of close to $80 to $90 billion. And India imports about, India sells about $1.5 billion worth of toys. And India manufactures about $90 to $100 million worth of toys to a total import value and manufactured value of $500 million, which multiplies by 3 times to the end market value. And if we look at $500 million versus 20 billion, we are scratching the surface. But question was, can we be competitive in India to manufacture and compete with China? Was the biggest question we had. And we were able to take it through and analyze and identify products which were highly engineered, like Nerf guns, what you see there. And we could deliver about 20% cost savings to customers out of India compared to China. And this in like-to-like basis. And that made us think, India has a solution. We just need to bring in, but if we were to bring in several components, we're still coming from China, because there is no specialized toys, kids, children's safe product. So you have to have a lot of safety products and the chemical side of it. And there are no approved suppliers in India. So we had to bring in a lot of people, a lot of products from China to integrate into this initially. We being a part of SEZ, it's a lot easier for us to do that. So we were able to do that. And today, we are able to deliver like close to $50 million a year out of India. We're doing about 50% of the export. We are the largest export of toys out of India today. From that 4 years we got there. And now we saw it needs a whole unique ecosystem by itself. So we are establishing an ecosystem for the toys in Koppal. Again, it's another hinterland. We are going there because labor is available. We want to go where labor is easily available, much more easier than the other activities, because everything else can be brought in. Labor movement is the biggest challenge we see in the country. Everybody moving towards the city. Cities are overcrowded, and you have to address this in fundamental fashion. That's why we have taken this call, and we did this in Belgavi also. Then we entered into consumer durables in 2020 during the pandemic because India, China had some dynamics coming up. We already discussed in entering this vertical back in 2018 through some investments, and today we are entering into cookware and entering into small domestic appliances through a clustering coming up in Hubli. So the bottom line is the opportunity for India manufacturing exists. What are our advantages in India manufacturing perspective? One, we have a great engineering talent. We have to leverage that. Second, our labor is much cheaper. Labor arbitrage exists in India. We are 3 times 1/3 of China labor cost wise, at least on the minimum wage side, lower end unskilled labor and semi-skilled labor. And then third is energy cost. We are cheaper in energy compared to China and some of the other countries, and you can larger Asian countries. So only those 3, but there are several negatives. What we have India as a challenges sometimes with the infrastructure, the logistics, port accessibility, and then we are talking about the cost of capital. One of the biggest challenge we face as a country, cost of capital. Our compared to our eastern neighbors and eastern competitors and our western competitors. So that is the one thing which I have been battling with the government to see how they can help the manufacturing industry to better utilize the cost of reduce the cost of capital. It has not been easy, and it's not easy also. And exports, a little bit of packing credit and other things exist, but domestically cost of capital is high, unfortunately, against our competition. Next slide. In terms of what do we machine tool side? I mean, today as aerospace, most of our machining is 5-axis type of high-end machining. And I have tried to work with few of the manufacturers in India, and they're not being able to deliver us any product which meets the requirements of what we are. Obviously, it's a very thin, small market globally. And most probably none of us is interested in focusing on that, because high volume, 3-axis, traditional automotive machining or cutting tooling type of machining is much more volumes driven, and that's where most of the industry is focused. I'm not blaming that, but the point comes down to is you have to think through the whole product life cycle, product what we call segmentation, and where it makes sense for you. That is one thing I have seen, and I worked with a few of the manufacturers to see how they can help reduce the capital costs. I mean, today we have about 150 machines sitting in our zone. They all happen to be Decalmao, Morisiki, because they are the only 5-axis machines we can buy into the country from import perspective and meet the aerospace requirements, and reliability exists from the operation perspective. Today, so for us, reliability is the key, and we need to be up and running. So we did have automotive machines locally, and also some of the oil and gas. And then, in fact, we exited oil and gas automotive business in 2015 because we couldn't find a differentiation against the competition. And because we're a machining shop, and there are hundreds of machining shops existed in the country. And we couldn't build an ecosystem of that nature because already there's a mature industry. There are already players which are doing that. That's why we exited. In 2020, we exited oil and gas business because we felt oil and gas customers were not ready for a long-term commitment, because if they have to do globally source, they need to look at long-term view. But oil and gas, oil price fluctuating literally on a daily basis, their behavior was very, very, very transient. So we had to make a choice. It was expensive calls, these are, but we had to make. But at the same time, we entered other verticals where we have seen the success coming out of that. And the one of the area where we see a growth is injection molding. again, this industry today, today we have about 100 and odd injection molding machines, going towards another 500 injection molding machines will add about next 5 years. But the point is today, still these are being mostly done by foreign companies, not Indian companies, but some of them are being manufactured in India also. These companies are in India, they're manufacturing and supplying. I'll tell you, then there is another area, is a whole special purpose machine for toys, toys industry or consumer durable industry, which this industry might want to look at that could be an opportunity for developing because with our engineering talent and also our innovation exists, together we should be able to look at SPMs and solve some of the challenges. Next slide. In terms of the one of the key, I would say, is having a great product is fine, but the key comes down to is how do we understand the total cost of ownership? One, you all address that. The second one is financing. A lot of times today, I see some of the areas where our injection molding machines, even in the cutting to CNC machines for the metallic machining, we see the financing becomes a key, long-term financing and a low-cost long-term financing. So it is important that industry comes up with some sort of solution, individual companies or as industry together, to make Indian machine tools more competitive in terms of a long-term 5-year type of a solution. With the lease, with working with the government to underwriting the machines value, end value, so that they can easily underwrite the leases. It is something of that nature has to happen to compete against some of the foreign machine makers, because they are using advantage of a lower cost of capital and import-export financing from the banks and bringing the products into India and the financing. So it's something which we cannot reduce if the competitive product is coming into the country at more lower cost, it's difficult for domestically sustain. And to a certain extent, government did make some calls on doing import duty and everything. They're all not sustainable in the long run, in my view. But in the short run, if they increase the duty, they may be sustainable. But if it's an export market like us, it doesn't really matter whether it's an import duty exists or not. Aerospace is 100% export market. Domestic aerospace requirements are so small, it doesn't move the needle at all. So it's important to understand how do you get a financing solution as an industry to support that. And other thing comes down to is, we talked about the clustering and identifying your own core products and everything else on the subsystem level, the castings, whether you can bring a very large scale casting, integrated casting provider who can support more than one industry on a much, much larger scale to bring the cost down. And that's another thing I have seen. I don't understand how a Chinese CNC machine, a 3-axis basic machine, is cheaper in India than a domestically manufactured CNC machine. That's a question the industry needs to answer. And we see this on day in and day out. When I ask the people to go look at locally what we can do, these are the answers we get it all the time. So it's important to understand. I don't have an answer. You have an answer. That if there is no answer available, there is a fundamentally, I'm pretty sure there is a reason why it is happening. You guys have to address that on the ground level. That's about it from my presentation perspective. And any others? I think that's my last slide. Yeah, that's about it. So happy to open up for any Q&A and happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Melligeri. While Mr. Satish brings forward some questions, I should thank you. Before the vote of thanks, very inspiring about how entrepreneur's journey has been, and your talk also has touched many sensitive chords as well as rung many bells. I think IMTMA will be wanting to be in touch with you and discuss its new avatars. Mr. Satish, can you bring forward any questions?
Yes, President. How does ACUS manage risk in such diversified industry segment? You are entering from service to manufacturing, in manufacturing from toys to aerospace, very high technology to consumers. How do you manage risk in such diversified industry segments?
Well, I mean, the whole idea is to manage the risk. We're diversifying. We were in aerospace during the pandemic. We were in toys also, but during the pandemic, our aerospace business dropped by 50%. We have a fixed asset sitting there, 150 CNC machine, 70 CNC, 80 CNC machines not running. Think about it. That's actually a challenge for us, a single vertical, single industry focused business. So having toys, aerospace will grow back to 2024 to the same level what it was in 2019. So it's like 4 years of lost opportunity and not able to use the assets what we have. You cannot do anything because the market doesn't exist. You cannot do anything about it. If market is there and you're not able to do, then I can understand. But market itself vanishes. It's impossible to do anything. So toys during the same time, it has grown. Last year we doubled our revenue, and we continue to do that. And collectively, our aerospace is a little bit more mature. They might look to grow 2x over next 5 years, but our toys will look to grow 4x over next 5 years. So having these mixed ratios in terms of ability to grow will help us to manage overall financial risk for the business. But at the same time, risk is because we don't understand the industry. What is controllable and what is not controllable. That is why typically we bring in the industry experts to lead these businesses. That's my way of looking at it. And we have the person who's heading the aerospace, heading the toys industry when we started. Today is was ex-Hasbro MD of Asia. So he understands the industry nuances they have, and operationally we have to solve the problems. We will only come to know when we start operating. So internally, I always budget 2 times more time, 3 times more money than what my team tells me that they need to do something. So unfortunately, that's a reality. Everybody wants to be aggressive, everybody wants to be cost effective, but reality is when they execute it, they take more resources than what they need. So if you can plan for that, you will be okay most of the time. That's what I have seen. And by separating out, focusing the team, and a lot of time, management team in manufacturing business goes in getting the infrastructure up and facility up and getting it up and running versus focusing on operationally how they need to execute to be efficient. We separated that out. My infra team takes care of independently what is requirements to meet it. And then manufacturing team focus on execution. And business development team is just focused on bringing the customers and products. So I think separating that out, responsibility per se in manufacturing settings, that helps me manage a bit of risk, understanding what is the delays are causing integrated fashion, if there is. I hope that answered a little, at least to a certain extent.
Yes, very much. And you're an inspiration for our young entrepreneurs. So our young entrepreneurs, what is the message that you give to our young entrepreneurs? And in fact, they want the key to what next big thing that they can do. So they want to know what you are planning to do and what they have to do. The message to our entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, look, the technology perspective, you can always say that this is the greatest next technology, that is the greatest next technology, but I'm more of a traditional guy. I look at, there is so many things to fix in existing technology to be globally competitive. Just take an example of a simple toy manufacturer. It's not simple, it's complicated by in its own sense. You have a multi-billion dollar opportunity. If you can do 10% of the global market, you're talking $2 billion. And consumer durable industry is like a $250 billion globally. We don't do any exports out of India. Why is there not? There are, just to give, I tell, Yahoo was leading a search engine. There was no problem. People are very happy with the search engine of Yahoo when Google came. You just need to be, in today, who remembers Yahoo? Nobody. Something is happening doesn't mean it's solving the problem of customer. Sometimes customers doesn't know, Customers didn't know they were buying everything from China till Trump came and shaken up the whole world about procurement and concentrated sourcing risks. Today, everybody wants, I want at least 10 to 20% from outside of China, whether it's India, Indonesia, Malaysia, or Vietnam, they don't care, you know? And India is one of the largest market. Okay, yes, there are a lot of nuances. He has the India market, and they all want to be part of this, participant to this market, the global brands. So you got to leverage that combination of our own strengths to find a solution. I don't have a magic bullet. I'm just telling you don't need to go a next hydrogen technology solution, EV battery solution to solve all the problems. Next generation, yes, 1 in billion Teslas might come, but there are hundreds of other manufacturing product companies can be successfully as a service provider can come for every one Tesla. So think your probability of success where it's higher. If you can improve on something which is already there and a better solution, I would call a better mousetrap. All you need to do is come up with a better mousetrap. Not necessarily the magic bullet, which has a 1 in billion probability of success.
Thank you, sir. That was a very interesting answer. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm done with the questions. Over to President, please.
Thank you, Mr. Satish. I now request Mr. Ravi Raghavan, Vice President, IMTMA, for a vote of thanks. Over to you, Mr. Raghavan.
Yeah. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Melligeri, for very insightful thoughts. As always, it's always very interesting to listen to you. And your closing comments on why look for too many diverse opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities existing, which can be, as you earlier said, customer problems if you look at it holistically. And the importance that you gave to something that is very basic in business of revenue generating assets, which most of us really forget in the long run when we do this whole manufacturing setups. Thank you very much for all the critical inputs that you've given us, and for your points that the Indian industry should participate more in the localization of machine tools in the higher end technologies. I think we will work towards that and make that a possibility. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak up and share my thoughts and my views, and hope it was beneficial to your team. And my team will be happy to answer any kind of if you guys want to come and visit and take a look at what we are doing. You're welcome to do that in Belgavi, and as we set up our couple and other places. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melligeri. Definitely, we'll take all the opportunities to visit and interact and be in touch with you also. Thank you so much for giving your time today to us. Thank you. So this brings us to the end of special session 3. And in the next moments, we will begin the business session of IMTMA. Please stay tuned.